unofficial.
Thanks. All right, hello, Grandpa. To start off with this interview, we're going to ask how old you were during the Depression, like from what you can remember, I guess.
I was born in 31, and the Depression ended pretty much in 41.
Mm-hmm.
So I was from 1 until 10 years old.
Okay. So where did you live in that time? Where did you live in that time?
All those years were spent in Casper, Wyoming, in, I think, essentially 2 different houses. People didn't move as much then as they do now.
Yeah. Did you move because of like your dad's job or? Oh.
No. My dad had a job all the time during the Depression. Sometimes he came home from work early because they didn't have enough to do, but he always had a job. He also played in a dance band almost always every weekend, and that made a tremendous difference in the income of the family.
Tell her about the tank on his job.
Wow. Where was that a big thing? Like the dance bands, did a lot of people try to get into that for entertainment and stuff?
That was one of the few entertainments that they had that was popular. People liked to go to dances on the weekend to associate. There weren't too many musicians in our town, Casper, Wyoming. So there was seemed to be pretty good work, but it was very competitive. The dance bands in those days were pretty much saxophones and trumpets, piano and drums. Very seldom did they ever use a guitar. It was more on the style of the big bands, but limited to usually 4 or 5 pieces.
All right. Was this a big deal? Like you said earlier, it helped him get by. Like how many kids was he supporting in your family?
4 of us.
4 of you.
Myself and 3 sisters. And it was a big deal. That the money at the dance band made an awful lot of difference.
Okay. Did you see a lot of kids around you struggling for their parents not having jobs?
Not too much. The families pretty much, there weren't very many women that worked. And if there was a choice of a job between a married man and a single woman, it almost always went to the married man. In fact, they had a rule. There were a lot of single school teachers. Not very many men school teachers, but a lot of women school teachers. And if a woman was single and taught regularly and got married, they usually gave her job to somebody else because it was sort of an unwritten rule that you had one worker, one breadwinner in a family.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Did your mother do any work, or was she a stay-at-home mother? Oh wait, you just said that. So she obviously stayed at home.
She was pretty much a stay-at-home mother, at least all during the Depression. Now, when the war started in 41, they used almost everybody they could. My mother substitute taught, but that was during the war when the Depression was pretty much over. She also sold facial products during that time, and she also ran a nursery because some of the women, we had an air base in town, and a lot of the women worked at the air base, but they needed somebody to tend their kids, and so she ran a nursery for kids during that time.
Well, that's very cool.
After the Depression.
Okay.
How about a question, did you know that there was a depression on when you were a child? Did you know that there was a depression?
We didn't use the word, at least in the places I associated, they didn't use the word depression. But what we knew was that jobs were scarce, money was scarce, things were so much cheaper. A lot of people worked for a dollar an hour, dollar and a quarter an hour. Even tradespeople worked for that much. Somebody that had a job, it was really prized.
Wow. Hold on. Was there anything else that you specifically remember? I'm trying to think that was out of the ordinary, I guess, from today. Okay, that was a silly question. Like any other, what?
Tell her about when they didn't have work. There were so many men who were out of work, and they had the CCC boys that.
Yeah, President Roosevelt initiated what they called the Civilian Conservation Corps. That was the CCCs, we called them. And that was young men that they lived in a camp west of town, and they did conservation work, building trails and flood projects and things like that. And that made an awful lot of difference. These fellows worked hard, but more than that, when the war started, a lot of those fellows were already trained how to get along together and live together and work together. So that was a real asset when they needed single men to enlist in the Army.
Did you know anyone, or were you ever a part of that?
They were older than me, of course. I didn't have any friends like that. But we knew them. They always came to town on weekends, Saturday night, and they were pretty well mannered. But I didn't know them personally because I was so much younger.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's really cool because we were learning about that in history and how they did yellow, like other things.
And that made a lot of difference to a lot of people at the time.
Huh. That's really cool. Well, we, I think, have enough time for the interview. But I'm not done because I want to talk about this more.
Go ahead and turn it on. Are you done?
Okay. In 3, 2, 1.
Wait.
What?
Let's do a question. Did you ever see bread lines or soup lines?
Oh, that's a good one.
People who didn't have, didn't have enough to eat.
I don't remember seeing any bread lines or soup lines.
But there were a lot of people came around for handouts.
There were.
We just kind of called them bums, but there were a lot of hungry people that would come knocking on your door wanting some food.
Yes, there were a lot of people that they traveled on the railroad cars. They were what we called bums, really. And my mother, I remember, she fed them a lot. Doris remembers that her mother feeding a lot of people. They'd come and knock on the door. They'd offer to do work. You didn't usually have work for them to do, but you almost always made a sandwich or fed them in some way. I noticed at the church, too, if you wanted to get a crowd of people there, all you had to do was offer a potluck dinner.
Yeah.
People were really happy to go together and get a meal, and there wasn't much wasted food, that's for sure.
That's a good point. A lot of work done there. Well, Mom, is there anything else I should ask, or?
I think that's pretty good, Rach.
People were very careful to make their clothes last.
Yeah.
My dad always fixed our shoes. We'd wear it through the soles, have a hole in the soles of our shoes, and he had a little repair kit, and he would fix our shoes. And my mother sewed, patched a lot, darned stockings. So we made things last. You didn't get many new clothes.
Yeah. Very frugal, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. I see where Mom gets it.
Oh, yeah.
Did
And
Mom hear that?
The president left an attitude on you, left an attitude on me, and most of the people I grew up with. And that was to sort of be frugal and be careful with your money and not be extravagant. And it's just an attitude that you had because you grew up with it.
Yeah. Makes sense. I know it wasn't Dad's mom like that, Mom?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
She was.
Yeah.
And she turned into almost a hoarder because she just saved everything because you didn't have it.
Yeah. Well, I suppose that's it. Say goodbye.
Okay, if you think of something else, don't be bashful. Give me a call.
I for sure will.